So hey folks, welcome back to the channel. Hope everybody's doing good out there. So very hot day here today in the middle of summer. We're getting a little heat wave. It's in the low 90s. So usually a couple times a summer we get maybe about 10 days where you got to turn the AC on, and this is definitely one of those days, and it's kind of hot in the barn here. But usually this time of the year we wouldn't really do much for loading, but a lot of these projects I want to kind of keep them moving. And this one we started back in the spring, and then, as you know, what typically happens in the spring is once the weather gets nicer and better and all that, you get outside and you start doing all sorts of outdoor activities and all that. And typically a lot of the stuff like reloading that you would do in the wintertime where it's cold and you're kind of cooped up in the barn or whatever and you don't want to be outside as much, then you would do more reloading in the winter, and that's typically kind of what I do, those types of activities in the wintertime a bit more. And yeah, so you take advantage of the good weather while you have it. But I did want to keep this project moving, and because I have a bunch of other stuff. There's a 9mm project that we need to keep that moving too, and some 300 Blackout brass prep and all that sort of stuff coming. And then plus I've got a bunch of other review videos and other things too that I'm working on as well. So quite a bit of stuff happening right now, and YouTube is definitely keeping me busy on that front. There's no shortage of projects, I can tell you that. So I think in total I've got like maybe 20 videos in total that I'm working on that are in various stages. And the thing is, with some of the reviews and stuff, they take a while to film. Sometimes it takes me 6, 7, 8, 9 months to do a review. I just don't get a product and open it up and then just do some bullshit review or whatever. I actually like review it. But anyway, so back to this project here. What we're doing is we're doing 38 special, and we've got 158 grain Hornady XTP bullets. So I'll show you our bullets right here. I got that shell on the coast in Massachusetts there a number of years ago, so makes for convenient for holding your bullets while you're doing your bullet seating. So, but these Hornady XTP bullets, as as you probably can figure out from watching the channel, a lot of the Hornady stuff I do like it quite a lot, and these are pretty good bullets. The other thing with this is that we are using unique powder. So unique goes back a long way to 1899. It's been around forever, pretty much nearly since the start of the smokeless powder days. And so I'll show you the powder here, what it actually looks like if you've never used this before. So let me get a little tray here I'll pour it into for y'all. And so unique, this is actually the very first powder, and it's kind of like basically like a very flaky powder. So that's what it looks like there. Oh, we don't want to spill it. And unique was actually the very first powder that I ever used. And at the time in 2013, that was the only pistol powder basically I could get whenever I went to go start reloading. And yeah, so that's what I started with, and works pretty good. So let's go ahead and seat some here. And the one thing with unique to be aware of is that it is a powder that, because it is kind of big and chunky and flaky there, the one thing that you might find with it is that it does not meter as well as some other powders out there. So a lot of times you'll see a little variation, about 1/10 of a grain or so here and there between loads. I've used different powder measures and stuff, and it was something that I was cautioned about back whenever I first started using the powder, that a lot of times because of the way the flakes are and stuff, it can tend not to meter as perfectly as some of the other powders. But it's one of those things where, as long as you're not doing crazy max loads or something like that way at the top, way over the top or anything, you know, you should be fine, I would think. Bugs are bugging me. And yeah, so but overall, for like if you're just doing like a target shooting load like this, I've never done it in 38 special, so we're going to see how that kind of works out. But I've used it plenty in 9mm, and it'll do just fine, you know, just for regular standard 115 grain, you know, target loads, no problem at all. You know, so works good. Tends to be a little smokier than some other powders, and tends to be, I'd say, slightly dirtier than some other powders, and say like Tight Group or something, but it works, you know. So a lot of it these days, with the way things are, you know, as us reloaders have had to see, and sometimes in other parts of your life, with all the things that have gone on in the past 2 years, we've had to adapt and sometimes use other stuff that we might not ordinarily use and make it work. So just is what it is. Now, in terms of crimp, so right now I'm just showing you the bullet seating. So at least for right now, I'm going to try the Lee factory crimp die. And all right, folks, so we have our Lee factory crimp die all dialed in on our RCBS press. Decided to go ahead and just use the press here. It's easier to film and all that stuff. Anyways, everything is set up, dialed in, so pretty easy. We just have to crimp all these now. So we're using the Lee factory crimp die, and the thing with the Lee factory crimp die is that it also has a sizing ring on it, a carbide sizing ring. Now, if you look on the forums and stuff, there's a lot of folks out there that are like, you know, why should you need that? Whatever, I've been loading with XYZ reloading set my whole life, and I don't need that, and that's stupid, all this stuff. Well, the thing is that with cartridge cases, depending on the manufacturer, all that sort of stuff, obviously your wear and tear as you shoot these cases and they get, you know, reloaded and all that, there's always going to be, there's going to be some slight dimensional differences, even if it's so-called in SAMI spec or whatever. There will always be little variations, little differences, whatever. And then also too, when you bell the case as well, yes, technically your crimp should kind of take care of that, but I don't think it's a bad thing to have basically a carbide sizing ring as you go up into this die to go ahead and do your crimp. It's basically kind of like a check your work type thing. A lot of the rounds that you might load, that you run your round up here into the die to crimp it, you won't feel a thing from the carbide sizing ring, and other times you might. And so again, it's a thing of, just like I'll show you in a second, you know, we use a case gauge to check our work. So this is just a kind of a final step to make sure that, hey, you know, these rounds are basically kind of in spec, so to speak, and they're going to fit and they're going to chamber, and they're not going to give us any problems. So I just don't see the big deal of it. Okay, there's a lot of folks, they get kind of wound up about it. They think it's stupid. Okay, you know, that's fine. You know, go ahead and do what you need to do. But you know, I've heard all the different arguments and stuff. I've used the factory crimp die now for 10 years. It's just what I do. And I can tell you pretty much with the ammunition that I shoot, I don't have reliability issues. I go to a match and pretty much run like a train, or if I'm shooting in practice, I just don't have problems. And I think a lot of it comes down to I check my work. I talk to shooters at matches that constantly their guns are choking on their ammo, and you talk to them about their processes and stuff when they reload, and they don't check the work. And so then, you know, they're sitting there with the 1911 racking half the rounds out that they've loaded in the gun, you know, for whatever issues that they've got going on there. So anyways, that's what I like to do. So with these, basically, it looks like, I don't know if you can tell on the camera there, but we have a nice roll crimp. So to set the Lee factory crimp die up, pretty easy overall. It's a matter of you just have to run the ram all the way down with the shell holder in place. And we'll go ahead and just raise it up here. And then because we do have that carbide sizing ring, there's no need to cam over or anything like that. We just want the die basically to touch the shell holder. That's all we need. And then we're going to use this knob up here at the top. And once we have the die actually set, then you end up taking a round that you're going to crimp. You're going to run the round up into the die. You're going to take the knob here, dial the knob down until it makes contact with the case mouth, and then you remove the round from the die. And to get a light crimp, you turn it just a half turn, and then, so that's what I usually do. I'll just do a half turn to start with, and then depending on how much crimp that I want to use, I go, you know, beyond that if I need to. So in this case, I felt like, you know, going about another quarter turn. That was my seat of the pants feel for it. So basically in whole, once I had this screwed all the way down to where it was making contact with the case mount, then from there, did another 3/4 turn, and that's what I've rolled with. So we'll see if we need to make adjustments on down the line. Cool, no problem. Don't mind making adjustments, so no problem at all. So anyways, what we're going to do is we're going to finish all these up, and then we're going to check them in the case gauge. So actually right now, we'll just go ahead and do that. All right, folks, so we'll go ahead and we will check this in the case gauge here. So let's just go ahead and have a look, and it fits nice and neat. No problems whatsoever. Nice and smooth, and that's what we want. So every round that I load, and I basically load common calibers and stuff, common rounds, common cartridges, is I use a case gauge, check my work, because yes, sometimes in reloading, you're going to you know, reload something that is tailored to a particular firearm, and it's rifling and all sorts of things. But basically with the ammo I load, what I always look for is I want it back to a certain spec, because if I need to shoot it in multiple firearms, I can, okay? And so whatever 38 revolver that I might have, you know, that basically I can take this ammo and I can put it in any 38 revolver out there and it's going to work, okay? I don't like to get into too much custom tailored ammunition for one specific firearm. Sometimes you have to, you know, but most of the time I like to keep it where it will work in everything. You know, that's just the way I roll. All right, folks, so there we go. There's our completed rounds all set for the range. So next up, what we're going to end up doing is heading up to the range, getting our chronograph set up. We'll do a bit of testing. We'll put some rounds on paper and just kind of see overall how these shoot and how it all works out. All right, folks, so we're up at the range, continuing on with our reloading 38 special 158 grain XTPs with unique 4.5 grains. So we've got our ammo there. We have our Manurhin or Manurhin MR73, one of the best revolvers of all time. We also have our GK Pro holster. So that is what the French cops use for their Manurhins. And then we also have our chronograph, our Pro Chrono DLX. I'm actually doing a review on that, so you should see a review soon. I'm working on it. And yeah, so we're going to do some shooting. First thing is we're just going to chrono it and kind of see what we get, and then we'll shoot at 15 yards for a bit of accuracy. All I had today was just some fiberboard. I forgot to bring up the IDPA type target, so I just spray painted a little bit on that fiberboard and then the paint ran, so whatever. And might shoot some steel with it there too, but so we'll see. All right, folks, so we got everything hooked up. We're all set to go. So we've got our Pro Chrono up there on the bench, and I'm just sitting in a chair I find that's kind of the easiest way to do it to get the best kind of line or accuracy, I guess you could say. All right, so here we go. $6.36. $6.84. $6.37. $6.35. $6.20. $5.71. All right. Here we go. 607. 661. 643. 597. 598, sorry. 709. 643. All right. All right, folks, so let's look at the data here. And it was kind of inconsistent, really. So we had 643, 709, 598, 643, 661, 607. Just seemed to be kind of all over the place. And that's about the same thing I got with the first one. Kind of a wide variation in everything. So I kind of think that it's just a bit weak, and really 600 some feet per second. You know, we're not necessarily maybe going for plus P loads with this, but I think we need to step it up a little bit. That's what I'm thinking. So we'll do a quick little accuracy test just to see how it checks in, and we'll go from there. All right, folks, so let's wrap it up. Well, that was our starting load, and I have to say, not, you know, overly impressed, really. You know, and it is the starting load. It just seems a little bit weak. If this was back in the 1880s, we'd probably be pretty thrilled about, you know, 600 and some feet per second. If you go by what Hornady has in their manual, it's about 700 feet per second for that load. We did have a couple that ended up there, but it was just too inconsistent. So that's something that we kind of need to work out. I don't really want that much of a spread, you know, over 100 feet per second with a cartridge like that. So, you know, it's just one of those things. And that's why, you know, when you reload, you experiment a lot and you figure things out. And, you know, you guys kind of get to see me go through that. So with the first group that we shot, it was okay, not great. That's from 20 yards. So pretty much, you know, if you're shooting like an IDPA match or something, you know, that'll get you in the ballpark, but it's not like great. And especially with that revolver, I've shot much tighter than that. The second group down here, we actually had a couple of nice shots. 2 and 2 kind of stacked on one another, and then these two up here, which were almost kind of one on top of one another. And 2, that, you know, we didn't chrono that, so there could be, that could be where if you have that 100 feet per second difference, to where, you know, it can spread your rounds out like that and string them vertically. So, you know, it's not great. It's okay, but it's not really what I'm looking for. So the next step is I think we need to bump it up a bit. And, you know, I can kind of understand with this, I'm kind of going for a target load. But so we don't need to go, you know, screaming fast and, you know, where we're looking for crazy speed or anything. We want a nice, good, accurate target load, and we're not really there yet. So I think what we're going to do is I'll look at it a bit, and we'll figure out how much we're going to bump it up by. And the next video, we pretty much have done plenty of stuff on the bench, so you've kind of seen me go through the whole process now. So next video, we'll just be going out to the range, and we'll see what load that I do for this next step. And you know what? If unique doesn't work, I've got other powders too that we can try out. So like right here, they list Win 231. I have some of that on the shelf. Power pistol, I have some of that on the shelf. So some of this stuff, if unique is not really ideally suited for this, hey, we can try other powders. We've pretty much have already done the work to prep all the brass. So I have a couple hundred pieces of brass. So really we can expand this out to wherever we need to. And if unique just doesn't want to work for us, well, we can try some other stuff. No big deal. The brass is already prepped and ready to go, so why not? But anyways, thanks for tuning in, folks. Any questions or comments, leave them below. And stay tuned for the next video. Right now I'm working on, I have a list. There's about 20 videos in production, various levels of production, either filming them part way, writing out a synopsis for them, whatever. So I'm pretty busy with YouTube, actually, and there's a lot of stuff I'm cranking out. So hold tight, and a lot of stuff coming down the pike, and also working on some a shopping list for some new audio and visual equipment too. So so we'll be amping that up as well as time goes on over the next 6 months or a year. All right, folks, have a good one. We'll see you next time.